So can we start with your full name, please?
Joseph Edward Kadziel,
Can you spell your last name, please?
Kadziel.
And where and when were you born?
1925 in Newark, New Jersey.
What month and what day?
February 6th, I think it was a Saturday.
And which branch of the military did you serve with?
I joined the Navy and ended up with the Marine Corps for 2 years out of the 3.
And what unit were you attached to in the Marines?
What did that say, 4th Marines?
So you were a corpsman with the 4th Marine Division.
Right.
Correct. Okay. And what years did you serve from and until?
1943 to 1946.
Okay, so let's talk about your childhood growing up. You said Newark, New Jersey.
Well, at age 4, which I was 1929, my mother and dad were from Poland, so we visited Europe for 6 months while the Depression was at home. And after 6 months, I came back and I couldn't speak a word of English. I was talking Polish only. I was, 4.5 years old?
Can you still speak Polish today?
No.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
2 sisters.
And where do you fall in line?
I'm the youngest.
And tell me about your parents and what they do for a living.
Well, my father came over and the first job he had was stoking coal in the copper smelters. And then he ended up owning a grocery store, and that was his, for the rest of his life, was owning grocery stores, butcher shops. Yeah.
And did your mother work, or did she stay?
And mother worked alongside of dad, yes.
Okay. So why did your family return to the United States?
Well, they originally came here to get away from the Austrian army, which wanted to take my dad into the army. So he jumped ship and came to the United States. Yeah. And been here ever since. Yeah.
Were you guys pretty close as a family growing up?
Yes, we were.
And did you start working at a young age? Did you have any jobs?
I was working in the grocery store, I think, from age 8. Yeah.
And what would you do?
Deliver, put cans on the shelf. In the old days, it's like every city block had its own grocery store. There were no supermarkets. Yeah. So you were the neighborhood boy. Yeah.
Do you remember what you were getting paid?
Oh, God. Probably 10 cents an hour.
And would you be able to keep that money, or did you have to give that to your parents?
No. We were never poor. We lived a good life. We weren't rich either. Yeah. But no, whatever I made, I spent. Yeah.
You guys always had enough.
Always had enough. Yeah.
What are some of the things you would do for fun growing up?
Well, there was no TV to watch, so the first thing you got up in the morning was to get out of the house, and you went to the playground. Did you ever play the game with the blade knife? Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
What game is that?
Well, you do different tricks with it. And the guy goes with the whole route. He's the winner. Yeah. So skateboarding was you got a piece of 2x4 and you snitched somebody's skate and you built your own skateboard in those days. Nowadays you go out and pay $98. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The old days you had a lot of things to do yourself. They weren't bought. Yeah.
How to use your imagination?
I don't. It gets away once in a while. You know, I wish I was this. I wish I was that. Yeah. And I've come to the conclusion: live today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Yeah. Live today to the fullest. Yeah.
Did you graduate from high school?
I graduated from Irvington High. In 4 years, I went to Seton Hall Prep. Did you ever hear of Seton Hall?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm an Orangeman, so...
Actually, Seton Hall is the oldest Catholic university in America.
I did not know that.
I didn't know it when I attended it. Yeah. I heard it on the History Channel.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were in the Big East for a while. The big basketball rivalry.
Oh, I think after the war, we sat in classrooms without any windows. Mm-hmm. We couldn't understand the damn foreign professors. The only time we understood them when we went down to the pub in South Orange, and everybody had 3 beers, then we understood each other better. We probably learned more. Yeah. Those were good days. They tell me I have it better today, but I'll take the old days anytime.
Yeah. Now, did you attend Seton Hall after the war, you said?
Yeah, just for a year. Yeah, that folks moved out to California, so I came out here, left school.
So did you graduate high school in 43? 42, 43? And then joined the military afterwards?
I joined at age 17 because if you joined, you can pick the service you wanted. If you waited till 18 and got drafted, you went where they told you to. So that was the way it worked in those days, yeah.
So do you remember the day that Pearl Harbor got hit?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember where you were and what you were doing?
I was at a professional football game in New York, and all afternoon you heard the troops from battalion so-and-so report back to base immediately. Nothing was said that we were bombed until the game was over and the kids were selling the newspapers. So that was Sunday afternoon. I think the team I saw was the Giants, the old independent league. Yeah. Who are you? Oh,
the sweatshirt?
Yeah.
That's the Bills, Buffalo Bills.
They had some good days, didn't they?
Yeah, I hope they come back soon.
Yeah.
So do you remember what your first impression was once you heard of what had happened and kind of started putting the pieces together? Did it sink in?
No, you were frozen in thought. You didn't know what was going on.
Did you know where Pearl Harbor was?
Oh, yeah. In fact, the picture of the Japanese with their top hat going in to talk to the Secretary of State Dulles. In the meantime, they were bombing Pearl Harbor. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you won't forget that day. Yeah.
And you were only 16 at the time.
17.
So did you would have needed your parents' permission to join at 17 though, correct?
I would say yes, yeah. But there was no, 98% of the people were, let's go in that
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you remember that conversation with your parents asking for their permission and if they.
There was no resistance anywhere. I mean, big stars at the sports world were quitting their jobs. Look at Ted Williams. Yeah. Uh, no, the whole country was in one direction, not like today. Yeah.
And you decided you wanted to join the Navy.
Well, good food, clean linens. You don't get in that damn mud that the Marines are born in. Yeah. Uh, it's funny how it turned out.
So you chose the Navy because it was a bit easier going.
It was a cleaner life. Yeah.
Um, so where did you go for your basic, and can you talk about that experience a little bit?
Newport, Rhode Island. And when it was over, we were celebrating going home on leave. And I went over the wall, jumped down, and I broke my foot. So originally I was supposed to go to New London, Connecticut. So either PT boats or submarines. And I can't imagine being on either one of them. Yeah. So when I came back from the hospital, I was sent to a medical school, Norfolk, Virginia.
And had you had any medical
No,
background or training?
absolutely none.
And can you tell me what that experience was like, what that initial medical training was, and stuff that you had to do and learn about?
You know, every day was a question mark. You had no idea what to expect, what's going to happen, until you maybe talk to a 20-year man, the old vets. Yeah. But Norfolk, Virginia was experienced 9 weeks.
And what kind of training did they put you through? What
Well,
did they prepare you for?
I don't remember as much about the Navy medical as I did in the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps, they teach you stop the bleeding, put the sulfa on the wound, give the guy a shot of morphine, and look for somebody to take him down to the beach. And that was basic in those days.
So when did the Marine medical training take place?
When I came back from graduating Norfolk, Virginia Medical School in the Navy.
Mm-hmm. You went for advanced training?
Well, I was assigned to Charleston, South Carolina, which was a beautiful town. I could have spent the rest of the war there. But then the chief handed me a needle to say, give the patient in the next room the shot. I walk in and there's a big fat ass looking me in the face. I guess I was treating her for a social disease. I figured, I got to get the hell out of this. Yeah. That's when I asked for duty in the Marine Corps. Yeah.
Oh, so you requested a transfer.
Yeah.
And did you know what that would later entail?
You never knew anything. What tomorrow brings, you know.
You just knew you didn't
Like
where you were.
like I say, the Navy, nice white sheets on the bed. Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, it's raining like hell at midnight, and the guy's waking you up to go practice with your rifle. Yeah. So you figure, they say, well, the Japs have a good habit of invading at midnight when it rains. That's how you learn. Yeah.
So it already wasn't shaping up to be what you would
Oh,
anticipate.
it was a world apart. It was a different world. Yeah. Personally, I don't know how the hell we ever won the war. I think the other guy lost it, and we just happened to be lucky to be standing up. Yeah.
So where did you go for your Marine medical training? Was that at Camp Lejeune?
Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Yeah.
And how long did that last?
9 weeks.
And was it strictly medical training, or were you doing other activities as well?
Oh no, you were out in the field with the Marines. Yeah.
So you were also trained to be an infantryman, or not so much?
Well, the medical all over the world signed a treaty that during the war you didn't pick on the medical. Well, the Japanese signed it, but they never adhered to it.
Yeah.
In fact, the first thing they wanted to do was kill the medic.
Sure. You were a target.
You were like, Corpsman, I am hurt. I need you. Yeah.
Did you hear that a lot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I loved Tokyo Rose. She played all the records that I liked. And I didn't have a girlfriend or wife, so I didn't have to worry about, yeah.
And that was the Japanese propaganda to help, or to try to hurt morale.
All the time.
Allied troops.
All the time. You know that picture in Saipan where the mother is jumping over the cliff? The number one sheet that they would send over the island was, in order to be a Marine, you had to kill your mother and father. Yeah, that was one of the reasons they used, and people believed them.
Sure,
yeah. Yeah.
So did you carry a weapon on you?
Carbine. Most men carried 45, which was illegal according to the World Treaty. In Germany, as bad as some of the things they did respect each side's medical. Yeah.
So after your 9 weeks training at Camp Lejeune, take me through what happened next. Did you pass the training, obviously?
Well, I was assigned to Charleston, South Carolina, and I told you the first patient was that big fat ass looking me in the eye. I said, no, get me out of this. Yeah.
So then what happened next?
You know, when you're 18, I think you volunteer for everything that they signed for, their openings. Paratrooper and all that. You figure, what the hell are you doing in a paratrooper? You just wanted to move on and on and on. Yeah. What's the other guy doing? Yeah.
So where did you move on to from there?
I was with that outfit for 2 years.
Okay, so you were sent overseas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right out of Linda Vista in San Diego, which was across the street from Miramar. That was Tent City.
And were you excited to leave the U.S.? Did you view it as an adventure?
You just went where everybody else went. You had no idea where you're going to end up. Yeah.
And where did you end
I remember coming cross country. We stopped at a town in Texas for breakfast. In those days, you got a steak hanging over the plate and 65 cents. And as we came out, this prisoner of war is laying down, sun tanning, pack of Chesterfields next to him, and it was the camp for a German fighter pilot. And they looked at us because we cleaned out the federal prisons with the bad guys. And he's looking at us and he said, what the hell is it, Thompson's machine gun on both ends of the line? He couldn't figure out while we were under guard. Yeah. Oh, they love Texas. They love to be prisoners of war. Yeah.
So can you tell me, once you guys left the U.S., where did you end up initially?
New Caledonia, which was French. And I don't think we stayed there more than 2-3 weeks. Then Guadalcanal was home base for the final 2 years. So no matter where you went, you came back to Guadalcanal. Yeah.
And what was your first impressions of once you landed overseas?
Well, New Caledonia was, you didn't see too much of war. The civilians were all in business to get our money. A pint of vodka was $20, which was 1/3 of a month's pay. And you knew out of every 4, one of them was going to be a bottle of water. So you were playing roulette every time you went out. You put that 20 in the window, and the window came down with a bottle of vodka. Yeah. Yeah.
So they were switching the vodka out for water as well?
Anything to extract the money from the American. It has never changed, and it never will. Yeah.
So you said you spent a few weeks in New Caledonia?
Probably a month, yeah, before we were shipped to Guadalcanal.
And what were you doing during that time?
Just hanging around waiting. Yeah. The first thing, when we got off the boat, we had to stay at attention because one of the French scouts were accusing a Marine of molesting her. Well, 700 of them, same uniform, we all looked the same, and you figured, I was at sea, what are you picking on me for? Yeah.
Guilt by association.
Well, if you molested a foreigner, you got 20 years. If you did that to an American nurse, it was 10 years in prison. Yeah, they played hard when you went on a foreign land.
And then once you guys arrived in Guadalcanal, you were there preparing until the invasion of Guam, correct?
Well, no, there were a couple of them before Bougainville and like New Guinea at 12 midnight, 100 degrees humidity with 100 degrees on top of it with heat. That was New Guinea, yeah.
And did you participate?
No, hell no. Just you're talking to the old timers that've been there and done that. Right. Yeah, I think that's where you paid attention to. Was the veterans.
Did they?
Well, like the first night in the foxhole on Guam, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the old sergeant is going around handing, "Come one, come all, big Banzai Attack tonight. Refreshments will be served." Yeah, you know, K-ration. And like I say, you just went along with it. You had no idea what the hell. What's this guy talking about? Well, the Japs love to counterpunch after dark because they knew where they were. You didn't know where the hell you were. So that was my first night on the beachhead in Guam.
And that was your first experience with any sort of combat or action was on Guam.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. And my first patient was a guy that got his buttock blown away with a mortar. And you're supposed to patch him up. And non-combat are usually the stretcher bearers. Well, we couldn't find one, so we took him down to the beach. And as I got on the LST, it was shaking from the little waves of all the ships out. And I had a hell of a time keeping on my feet. And when I put the guy down and he felt the movement of his underneath him, his white face turned rosy red, figuring, I'll be on a hospital ship in a half an hour, and tomorrow I'll be in New Zealand. The war's over for me. And if that guy was here right now, I would kill him myself. He really taught me a lesson, you know. Hey, big shot, you're not the big shot you are. Human nature, just when he felt that he was safe. Yeah. Never forget that one.
So can you talk about the days or moments leading up to you landing on Guam? So you're preparing to put all your training to use.
Well, first wave went in at 6:30, second wave 7:30, and ours goes in at 9:30. So you're just hanging over the side watching everybody, you know, hit the beach. Yeah. And I still cannot remember whether we hit the sand or we hit the water. So that was a big thing. That's when MacArthur picture him walking into the water, and the water came up to his knee and took the crease out of his pants. So when I mentioned this stupid thing of getting your shoes wet or not, the tide and the rocks in the South Pacific were devastating. Yeah. In fact, I was told guys that were at the headquarters in Tinian, Hal and Mad Dog Smith was arguing with the admiral, because the admiral says, I'm not landing you there. I don't want to ruin my boats. They said the noise, the cussing, was bigger battle there than the Battle of Tinian itself. But these two guys arguing where the hell he's going to drop the troops off. So some of the stories you hear, you figure this is fiction. It can't be real life. Yeah.
So do you remember how you felt waiting to land on Guam? Did you have any nerves or apprehension, or do you remember anything?
Not really. There was a Catholic Mass, and everybody went to church that morning. And I remember the priest saying, make a spiritual confession, and the first time you have a chance, you could go to confess. Well, even the atheists, you know, showed up for that one. Yeah.
And you talked about your first patient on Guam. How soon after you touched the island did you encounter him?
An hour. Yeah. The Japs never let you land the same wave. Sometimes you can land the first one, they'll open up on you. You're expecting that the next island, they may take 3 waves. Look at Iwo. To let them empty the boats for 7 days and park it before they open up on them. Yeah, so it was one question mark after another every day. Yeah. The last thing is you trying to figure out what tomorrow is going to be like. Yeah.
And how many patients did you tend to that first day?
Oh, God. 3, 4. It was never what you knew where you were and what you were doing. You just were in like a haze. Yeah. You did it because everybody else was doing it. Yeah.
Would you say that the medical training that you received prepared you for what you would eventually have to put into practice?
No, like I said, that first baseman taught me a lesson that I ain't as hot as I thought I was. You know, that little wave made over the shot everything you try to do for this guy. That's why I say I still hate the SOB. Yeah, yeah. I think of that a lot. Yeah.
And how long did you spend on Guam in total? Were you there for the entire battle?
Yeah, which was what, 21 days?
A few weeks, yeah.
And then the big surprise was on the way back to Guadalcanal, we're out there waiting to get on a boat and we're circling because they're not getting on the boat fast enough. Well, it so happened that the captain of the Dutch was greeting every Marine personally. And he was selling them lottery tickets. And he had a horse race every hour. Everybody got 2 cans of beer a day. Major and below stood in line and chow, lieutenant, colonel, and got served. And that Dutch cooking was absolutely delicious. Yep. That was some cruise.
And earlier you were talking about your first night spent in a foxhole.
Yeah.
And they came around with pamphlets talking about Banzai Attack.
Yeah.
Did you ever experience any of those?
Banzai Attack? I guess every time they counterattack, that's what they call it. That's what they used to yell out, Banzai, Banzai. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I understand that they would run through essentially the front lines and just try to get as deep behind enemy lines as possible. So did you experience any of that? Any
well, you have to realize that the Japanese army was a suicide army.
Yeah.
And if a guy tried to put his hands up, the guy behind him was forced to kill him. The first camp for prisoners of war, the guy showed it. I said, "What's that?" It looked like a chicken coop. He said, "That's the prisoner of war." And the headquarters came, we want an officer, a Japanese officer. So the first guy was a graduate of UCLA. And a wise ass that he asked for a cigarette. Who won the UCLA game? I mean, he was bending it to us, yeah. Because he knew he could get away with it. If we did the same thing to them, we'd get our teeth knocked out. Yeah.
So what's one of the toughest things about being a corpsman?
What is...
In your experience, what is one of the toughest things about being a corpsman?
Oh, I think you're afraid you might make a mistake and do the wrong thing, you know. But it was so basic that it was hard to make a mistake. And I never saw a guy give out and say, I can't do this. You just do it because, like I said, everybody else was doing it. I was, 19 years old? Yeah. The attitude in those days isn't what it is today. Yeah.
Did you ever lose any patients?
Oh, I don't know. They pass along, so you don't keep track of them. I mean,
but in front of you while you're tending to somebody.
Oh no.
No.
No. The worst thing I saw as a medic was 2 guys siphoning the fluid out of refrigeration. And they drank it, they turned purple, green, yellow, go into convulsions, and there's nothing you can do for them but just watch him die. That is the worst I had experienced.
Why were they siphoning?
They were addicted to alcohol.
Oh, okay.
And you're talking about, what, 90% wood alcohol. I had access to plain alcohol, and every Friday I would go up the road to the CB camp and trade a half a gallon of alcohol for an ice cream mix. It was in a can. You brought it back. We had ice cubes from the hospital headquarters. And we had ice cream every Friday in Guadalcanal. That was a big evening.
So did you know at this point on Guam that medics and corpsmen were prime targets for the Japanese?
Yeah, by that, we were told that before we hit the island, yeah.
So would you take any precaution?
Well, it was getting dark, and you heard the guy say, Carmen, I need you. You put your head above the foxhole, and he's ready to blow it off. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, we were forewarned real good on that one. Yeah.
And did you have any close calls yourself?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I had a reporter in my tent, and when I'd get a newspaper 3 or 4 weeks later sent me, and you'd read it and you'd say, "You wrote this article? I was there. I don't remember it." You know, this happening the way you just, yeah. So the press today, I just think it's like a comic strip. Everybody's got their own little rendition. Yeah. Is this your life's of what you're doing now?
What's that?
Is this your life's ambition to be a reporter or book writer or?
Not so much a reporter or a book writer, I guess, but I mean this particular project. You know, I'm a photographer by trade.
Yeah.
So I'm not really well versed in journalism or these interviews that I conduct. They're just sort of learning as I go. But you know, it's a personal project. I have a personal connection to it with my grandfather being in the war. So my purpose for doing all of this is to document and preserve, you know, your story and the stories of many others. So
you're telling the story through your pictures.
Well, and
more or less.
Well, and the actual.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there will be a biography accompanying it
yeah.
as well, so people can read about it. So.
Well, a picture tells another story, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Photographers in those days, they would have to crawl up to the machine gun to get a picture of a fashion. They didn't have the cameras they have today.
Yeah,
well, they were crazy. They were crazy. You know, you look at this guy crawling up like he's going right in the middle of the. What the hell are you?
Yeah, we have a bit of an advantage today compared to them.
Look at the argument about the flag on Iwo Jima. Mm-hmm. It's only 2 years ago that the Marine Corps decided the second picture was taking down the first one and putting up the second one. Mm-hmm. That is the official Iwo Jima flag. Because, do you know the story of the flag?
Well, I know they put a small one.
Well, the Secretary of Navy, Forrestal, was on one of the ships. Mm-hmm. And usually you put the flag up is when you got the island secured. Yeah. Well, hell, it wasn't even started. Yeah. So the colonel of the outfit said, somebody said the Secretary of Navy wants that. Hell, he gets get that damn flag down and put this one up. And that Forrestal committed suicide after that war ended. Yeah.
It's too bad.
Some of the stories that are really true are, you can make, every time Clint Eastwood would make a story, they claimed that he would allow 90% of what was written by the author on screen. That's a pretty big percentage. Yeah.
You'd hope they'd get it accurate.
Yeah. Just tell the truth.
Yeah. That's all I'm here for. So do you have any other memories from your time on Guam that stick out in your head? What was one of the toughest days there for you? I mean, you're sleeping in the ground, I'm assuming.
Well, the first day that the battle was over, we set up a sick bay tent, and that was our home base for communication in the South Pacific in those days. So people would know what the U.S. Navy was like, and they came in because they had a cough and they knew they would get tincture turbohydrate, which got a good percentage of alcohol. Well, the second day, there were a few more. By the third day, we ran out of turbohydrate because everybody had a cough on the hour. Yeah. So the enemy learns real quickly how to play the Army of the United States. Yeah. That was funny. That was funny. No, the trip back was my highlight of the war.
Your trip back home?
No, from Guam back to Guadalcanal.
Why was that the highlight?
It was like a cruise. I mean, Dutch cheese, rye bread, butter, eggs, 2 cans of beer.
And what had you been eating prior to that?
Well, K-rations, you didn't have a menu. It was, Spam was the biggest thing. You hated dry milk. You hated dry eggs. But if you mixed them up and made French toast out of the lousy bread that the Marine baked, it was filet mignon. Yeah. And the shit on the shingle was the filet mignon of the weekend. There's a guy in Frisco, every Tuesday, he gives World War II veterans a free shit on the shingle breakfast. Yeah. And that was, you made a good gravy out of the ground meat. It was good. The food stunk. I mean, it was terrible. Yeah.
And what about being able to shower and clean up and change your clothes?
Well, you were always near the ocean, and showering was 30-gallon drums, about 12 feet off the ground, solar panel hot water. We used to make fun of the Aussie with that hat that they wear, and 1 or 2 guys would take a shower with the hat on. Yeah. They were good fighters. They were good guys to have on your side. Yeah. Because the mutton we used to eat from Australia stunk. I mean, yeah. Ate a lot of cucumbers. I don't know where the hell that came from.
So after you left Guam, you returned to Guadalcanal.
Right.
What happens next?
That is a moment where there's 6 bunks, 6 cots. So you come back, a guy struggling. First thing you want is a shower. The next thing you want is the kitchen is open. And in a couple of days, 2 of the cots may be empty. And the eternal question, is he dead? Did he get hit? Where is he? And nobody would ever ask the question until a replacement would come. So You never knew the answer. That was the sad part. Yeah. The unspoken word. Yeah.
Did you have any close friends that you lost over there?
No, because they told you never to make close friends. If the guy gets killed and it emotionally sets you off, they lose two men. That's the way the Marine Corps figures. Yeah. When we came back from Guam, we were getting ready for Okinawa.
And you had gotten sent home before the invasion.
Well, in those days, I think he did 200 days overseas, out of states. And when you came home, you were guaranteed to stay in the United States for 6 months before they sent you out again. So I had all my clothes impregnated, ready to go to Okinawa, which had 145 different snakes. So we were experts in snake bites. That was on the menu. And just as we were ready to leave, I got pulled out of line and sent home. Yeah.
You weren't able to put that training to use.
Well, when they get you ready for combat, you've got your fatigue, like I'm in that picture. Well, that has been sprayed with some kind of chemical. So we're out playing football in 100-degree heat, and everybody's sweating, and all of a sudden everybody is itching. Well, your sweat, what they sprayed you with, is taking place. Yeah. So until you found out what the hell it was pretty miserable.
So you were actually back in the U.S. when the war had...
The very day the second bomb, August the 8th. Yeah.
That was the day that you returned to the U.S.
San Diego, yeah.
And did you catch word of what had happened?
Well, we pretty much talked about it a couple of days before when the first bomb was dropped. We were at one day out of Pearl Harbor. Yeah.
And what was the conversation? What was the
Well, we had a guy that was getting a mental discharge. He lost 3 ships, and he didn't like Marines. So when we were approaching Pearl Harbor, he put signs all over. No leave at Pearl Harbor. Well, he goes into the leading, and it has never drop anchor. And this crazy guy drops the anchor and yanks all the communication out of the South Pacific. So I remember the guy climbing up the side, and his head showed. He said, "Where is the son of a bitch that I'm going to carve up in 1,000 places?" Because it stopped the whole Navy for I don't know how many hours by breaking the cables underneath the harbor. And we never got to get off land. Yeah.
So the anchor had destroyed those cables? Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Big sign. You can read it miles out at sea. Do not drop anchor. Yeah.
So when did you receive your discharge?
What's it, February 9th?
Yeah, you went in February 5th, 43. And then 3 years and 20 days later, so it would have been...
Now, that February 5th was one day before I became 18 on February 6th. So that's how close it was when they drafted you or you signed up. I think that was the most miserable day of the war, was being naked in a Brooklyn warehouse at 20 degrees temperature with signs all over you, you know. Oh, that was miserable.
Worse than all the time you spent on Guam?
Oh, the entire war. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was, what, all of 17? I knew all the answers. Yeah.
If you could tell your 17-year-old self anything, what would you tell yourself?
Keep your mouth shut and listen. Yeah. No, I'm not kidding. Yeah.
And how did you feel when you learned that the war was over and you wouldn't have to go back overseas? And
Well, it was a question mark from August, and I didn't get out till February. And I'm in the Brooklyn Navy Yard with 12 kids that coming in, cleaning the kitchen, and spray paint and spraying for cockroaches between each meal. So how many months of that can you enjoy? You know, waiting to get the hell home. Yeah.
but at least you're not overseas and in danger of losing your
No,
life.
but it's always a question mark. So what's tomorrow? Or who's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, you know, go here now?
Yeah.
The entire war, that's question marks. Yeah.
So once you did finally get out, what did you do? Did you go home? Did you see your parents?
Yeah, I was living at home in the GI Bill, and I signed up at Seton Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very boring, freshman class. Plus, I told you, you couldn't understand the foreign professors, except when you were drinking beer with them. And then my folks came out here, and I think I followed a year later out here.
What did you eventually do for work, for a career?
My first job out here was a relief cook for Van de Kamp's restaurant. You remember them? And then I went back east for no reason at all. It was about a year and a half. And the first thing I do is call up a gal I used to know for 6, 7 years. We used to go to New York. And you ever hear of the Russian Tea Room?
No.
Well, in those days, Hollywood Tea Room. Now it's on 9th Street and 49th in New York. I said, you go upstairs, I'll stay down here. So she comes downstairs. I said, how'd you make out? Well, she says, I'm not going to marry the guy that I'm engaged to. Oh, you're engaged? What the hell am I doing here? Well, I thought it'd be a good day for old times to tell you. Oh? What else did she say? And she really hesitated. She said I was going to marry you. And I was 24. I said, what? I had no idea, no intent of marrying anybody. I remember my reasoning, well, if I don't marry her, the other guy's going to get her, and I can't let that happen. So I got married.
And how long did you stay married for?
65 years. And when the kids took us out to dinner on our 65th, she'd been in an Alzheimer home. And I don't know why she was here. She got up, turned around. She says, you're the problem solver in this family. Do you know how I can get out of this relationship that I'm in? I figured, no. I said, who's going to pay the rent over there of $8,000 a month? Yeah. So she shut up, and we got in the car, and I took her back. And she died about 3 months right after that. 65 years. time does fly. Yeah. Do you have any kids?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Does your wife want any?
We do, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She comes from a big family. She's the youngest of 11.
Oh, brother.
So we've got a lot of nieces and nephews and cousins. And
What nationality is she?
she's Mexican. Yeah. Mexican and Spanish.
11 kids.
Yeah.
God bless.
I don't think we're going to have that many, but.
God bless.
So do you have any advice on a long-lasting, healthy marriage?
Take a football team. If you take that star and he walks around like he's the team, you don't have a team. You got to give your damn ego to the welfare of the whole team. You know, the quarterback always takes the offensive lineman out to dinner and pays the bill. If he wants to get protection, right?
Sure.
Yeah. You have any favorite in the game Sunday?
Not the Patriots.
Oh.
Anybody but them.
Well, they had what? Brady has won 4 already?
5.
5.
Yeah. This will be his 9th appearance.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
41 years old.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Defying the odds.
My son played for Stanford when Plunkett was the quarterback.
Oh, yeah?
Ended up playing Ohio State, the Rose Bowl, and beating them. Then he got drafted by the Cowboys and ended up in New England with Plunkett again.
What position did he play?
Defensive end.
Okay.
So he's got a helmet at his bar in Park City, defensive player of the game. And I'd say, don't you feel ashamed having that helmet there? The score was 49-0. The other team got the 49. And you were called the best defensive player of a 40-0 game? When they wanted him to take the growth hormone in 1973, which, you know, they were still calling it a supplement, he said, I felt like the new coach said, well, if you get 30 pounds of muscle on you in 30 days, you could have the middle linebacker job. He said, I quit. He said, I felt like a side of beef. He had his degree from Stanford. His football salary was only $21,000. And if you're not the big man with the big money, you're lucky. The best thing he ever did was come home. Yeah. Because I think Plunkett's first year was like 2-14. Yeah, he had a miserable year. God, that's a dirty business nowadays, professional football.
A lot of money behind it.
Oh, trillions of dollars. Trillions.
And they're a non-profit organization, the NFL.
Do you know the contribution of colleges depends on how the football team did that year?
Sure, I believe it, yeah.
The last time Stanford won a Rose Bowl was 6 years ago. They collected more money that year than Harvard, which is always number 1, Yale, which is always number 2, together. You're talking about $1 billion. The whole year's budget is only $5.5 billion. Yeah. People are crazy about their football.
They sure are. Now, is there anything else that you'd like to share about yourself that we haven't talked about?
No, I was in a restaurant business in Hollywood, and that lasted 3 years. And then I always thought the coffee salesman had a good job. So when I got out of the restaurant business, I just happened to look into a opening for the salesman. I worked 35 years for one company. Yeah. Retired 30 years now.
Now, if you had any additional advice for my generation and future generations.
Well, you always hear the expression, when I retire, we're going to do this. We were lucky we had plenty of babysitters. I had 5 weeks vacation. We always, 6 years into my marriage, I asked my wife, do you mind telling me, and don't give me a story, just tell me the honest truth. Why did you drop the other guy and marry me? Well, I thought I would travel more if I married you. I said, that's not very romantic. that didn't warm my heart any. Yeah.
She was a straight shooter, huh?
Well, you asked for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you very much for sitting down and speaking with me, and thank you for your service.